welcome everybody. Thank you for attending and registering for our event today. We have quite a lot of people who have registered today, so lots of questions ready to come through. But what we will do, we will wait just another minute or two for people to trickle through. And then once we have a few more people with us, we shall crack on with some introductions before we discuss the college and the SQE. Just a couple of housekeeping rules, as we usually do on webinars. This is being recorded, so this is going to be recorded. So it is created as a webinar, so you will not have the opportunity to turn your microphone and camera on. But if you would like to, please let us know, and we can give you the ability to turn your microphone and camera on. If you'd like to chat to our panelists directly, that's absolutely fine. If you have any questions as we go through, we do have a Q&A box and a chat function. Always welcome to pop them in the chat function, just so they're more in one place, but under the Q&A you are able to, if you like, ask a question anonymously. So we will be keeping an eye on those couple of functions as we go through the chat and the conversation, but please fire your questions through. Obviously we've had all submit a question prior, so if nobody does want to ask a question, we will try and answer some of those as we go, but if you would like a question answered right here right now, please pop it in the chat, and we will put it to either both our panelists or the most appropriate person. So without further ado, we shall crack straight on. So everybody, thank you for joining this webinar. This is looking at getting ready for the SQE with the College of Legal Practice. We are hopefully going to give you all of the understanding that you need to know when it comes to choosing the right preparation course for you and when to do that. But before we start, what I wanted to do was some introductions. So we have a couple of panelists with us today, and I'm going to let Sarah introduce herself first.
Hello everyone, and thank you for coming along this evening. So my name's Sarah Taylor. I'm one of the programme leaders at the college. Just by way of sort of background, I'm in charge with another programme leader with the SQE preparation courses, as well as the postgraduate LLM programme that we offer as well. Before joining the college, I was in another higher education institution. So I've been in higher education in professional legal academia for about 17 years. And before that, I was a practicing solicitor in private practice and in-house as a corporate and commercial lawyer. So that's me in a nutshell. So shall I pass on to Mary now?
Thank you, Sarah. So my name's Mary, and I am a current student with the College of Legal Practice on their part-time LLM course. I started last year. And I've completed my SQE1 last year, and I'm currently studying for the SQE2. I'm also a mother to 3 children, and I work full-time as a trainee solicitor in medical negligence.
Thank you. So as hopefully you can all kind of understand that we've got quite a wide range of experience and experiences with us today to hear from. So we will hear both from Sarah soon, and Mary will also have 5-10 minutes to talk about her experiences thus far as well. But before we carry on, we just wanted to give you a bit of an oversight of what we're going to be looking at today. So what we're going to cover, we're going to be looking at the College of Legal Practice. Who are we? What do we do, and what are we here for? The SQE route is qualification. Sarah, as our resident academic, is going to jump in and give us a bit of an overview of the SQE and what it entails. We'll also briefly discuss qualifying work experience, so we'll give you the understanding of the 4 puzzle pieces. We're gonna have a brief understanding of what firms are saying, so looking at you as a student, what can you do, and the different ways in which you can take the SQE, so the different type of student you can be, the courses that we have, fees and funding, and also any questions. So like I said, please do drop some questions in as we go, but if not, you've all asked a question before, so we will try and get to some of those questions as well, but we hope most of those will be answered. So to start, who are we? Who are the college? So we are the College of Legal Practice. We are a wholly virtual, totally online, fully accredited postgraduate law school providing education towards the SQE. We were set up by a wider and larger education institution, the College of Law, who are based in Australia. They are a not-for-profit organisation delivering legal education and are the largest legal education provider in Australia. My apologies. And what we've tried to do here is just quickly detail our ethos, because we want students to understand, and prospective students to understand who we are as a college. And it's really key for us that firstly we mention that we're part of a not-for-profit group. Our parent company are not-for-profit. We hold that ethos. We are not about making money. We are about evolving and developing the best legal education for future and aspiring solicitors through the SQE. And we do that by making it accessible and affordable. So you'll find that our prices are very competitively priced, but that does not mean there is any lack of quality whatsoever. We offer what we believe to be some of the best legal education out there in the market. We want to facilitate increased access to the profession. Becoming a solicitor historically has been a very difficult thing to do, but the SQE opens up a whole new market and a whole new opportunity for people. And we want to make sure that those who might not previously had the opportunity do have so now. We offer personal and targeted individual support, and we'll talk about that later. An inclusive and supportive learning environment too. A lot of our learning is around practical application, which offers the opportunity for those to get involved. And we also have a collegiate approach where you still have contact to tutors, supervisors, academics in a variety of different settings. But before we get into our courses, I'm going to hand over to Sarah, who's going to give us a very brief overview on the SQE and how it's broken down.
Okay, so just before I move on to SQE, you're obviously, I imagine a lot of you already familiar with the old way of qualifying, which is the LPC route, which was very much a linear way to qualify, starting with your law degree or a GDL, followed by your LPC, followed by your training contract. So the SQE model has moved away from that linear approach. And essentially, as it says on this this page, you've got 4 elements that you need to complete, and essentially you can do those in any order in which you wish. So I imagine that most of you will be starting with the degree, and remember that, again, different to the LPC, no need to have a law degree. We will come on to why you might need some training in legal foundations if you haven't got a law degree, but the SRA do not require a law degree, just a degree. And then the flexibility really comes in when you're looking at fitting in your national exams, SQE1 and SQE2, and that all-important qualifying work experience as well. And you can undertake the SQE1, SQE2 and qualifying work experience in any combinations along a trajectory that then takes you to the last element, which is making sure that you meet those all-important suitability requirements in order to be admitted as a solicitor to the role. We will be talking a little bit about how you can combine your qualifying work experience and getting ready for those national exams a little bit later on. Just a couple of important points to note when you are thinking about how you're going to undertake your pathway to becoming a solicitor. As it says on this slide, SQE1 and SQE2 are completely separate from each other. So you register for those exams completely separately. And the really important thing to note as well is that unless you've got an exemption such as the legal practice course already under your belt, then you must pass SQE1 before you are entitled to sit SQE2. The SRA won't let you register to sit SQE2 unless you either have an LPC or other exemption or have passed SQE1. The other important thing to note is that you've got up to 6 years in order to complete those 2 national sets of exams, so a little bit longer than the old LPC route, which was 5 years, which obviously helps with some flexibility for those of you who are managing the national exams alongside work or other commitments. And obviously the other main difference between the LPC and the SQE model is that unlike the LPC, the SQE1 and SQE2 are national exams run by Kaplan on behalf of the SRA, rather than each individual LPC provider being responsible for the LPC exams. And obviously that's to provide consistency across the country. Already mentioned that QWE can be done at any time, either before, alongside SQE exams, or after SQE itself. So that's a little bit of context to the new SQE model. So let's just delve a little bit deeper into what the SQE exams look like. And you've probably already heard quite a lot of stories about the challenging nature of the SQE exams. And there's no doubting that they are challenging, but that's one of the reasons why our SQE preparation courses are so valuable, in that they help you to get ready for those challenging set of exams, and Mary will be focusing on that a little bit later in the presentation. So let's start with SQE1 first. SQE1, as you may know, is testing what the SRA call functioning legal knowledge. And that functioning legal knowledge is comprised of 13 areas of law, which traditionally have been drawn from your more academic LLB foundation. So if you studied a law degree, you'll have studied things like contract and tort. So those are your academic foundations, together with the subjects that would have made up your LPC compulsory subjects. So those are your more vocational subjects, such as property law and practice, business law and practice, litigation and wills. So you can see already that SQE1 covers a much wider range of subjects than the traditional LPC and LLB, which were obviously separately combined elements under the old regime of qualifying. The way in which you're examined is also very different from the way in which you might be familiar with at an undergraduate level, whether you've done a law degree or another degree in another discipline. So it's done by way of multiple choice questions, but don't be fooled by that name. Those multiple choice questions are pretty challenging. And they're also challenging not only in their content, but also in the number that you have to complete within the time frame, and also the subject matters that you need to cover within each exam. So before I just go down into what the MCQs look like in a little bit more detail, just want to explain how the exams are set up. So the exams are set up into FLK Paper 1 and FLK Paper 2, and each of those subjects cover 6 of those 13 areas of law, and then you've got a 7th subject which floats over both FLK 1 and FLK 2, and that's the conduct module, if you like, and that's because obviously professional conduct pervades all areas of law, so it's examined in both sets of papers. So in total, you've got a total of 360 multiple choice questions which you have to get through, and essentially those are examined over 10 hours, and they're split into, as it says on this slide, split into 4 sessions over 2 days. So you'll have 2 exams on one day covering paper 1 subjects, 2 exams on the next day covering the paper 2 subjects. So it's no mean feat. As we've already mentioned, they're run centrally by Kaplan for the SRA. And what's good about SQE1 is that you can take them at many locations throughout the world. So you don't have to be based in the UK to undertake SQE1. As long as there is a Pearson VUE test centre location where you are situated, you'll be able to take the SQE1 exams. And when you register for SQE1, the SRA produce a list of where all their Pearson VUE assessment centres are based. So just in terms of the next assessment dates, we've got assessment dates for SQE1 coming up in July. Then the next set, which is probably going to be more meaningful to people on this webinar today, there's a next assessment sitting in January 24 and then July 24. So they're twice a year, essentially. Exam fees, which are on top of any preparation course fees that you pay, are set by the SRA. You can see the current level here, and as it says here, they have been increasing those fees year on year, so that's something to watch out for. So just before we move on to SQE2, let's just have a quick look at what the MCQs entail. So they are called what we know as single best answer questions. So there is one answer that basically stands out as the best answer out of the 5 possible options that are available to you to choose from. But the thing to note is that all 5 options are plausible at first blush. And so it's down to you to really have a laser focus to identify and discount those answers which don't go far enough on the facts that you've been provided, or are just wrong on the facts provided. And that's one of the beauties of our preparation course, is that you will be exposed to many MCQ SQE1 style questions in order for you to hone that technique, because there is, as well as having that underlying legal knowledge, there is a technique to answering these MCQs as well. And I will be showing you some of the techniques that we use to help you embed that legal knowledge recall it, and then apply it in the best way to get you to that single best answer. So that's SQE1, and that's what we're going to be focusing on in terms of our demonstration, because that's the first part of your pathway. But just briefly moving on to SQE2, which is badged as a skills course, but actually is really a skills course which is obviously combined in the context of 5 practice areas, because obviously the skills are not practiced in isolation. They are based on those 5 legal practice areas which are set out on this slide, which are the more vocational subjects, which is what you'd expect. But having said that, those vocational subjects themselves draw on those other academic-based subjects that you've come across in SQE1. So actually, when you get to SQE2, you need to have retained and be able to use that SQE1 functioning legal knowledge as well. So that's something important to mention. So again, fairly rigorous assessment regime set up by the SRA. So it's one exam. So it's a one exam, but it's consisting of what they call 16 skills assessment stations. So you've got 12 written stations setting out testing you on the legal skills of case and matter analysis, legal drafting, legal research, legal writing in the context of those 5 practice areas, together with 4 oral stations, which will be testing you on advocacy and client interview and attendance note skills. So there's a combination of all those different skills and practice areas that make up those 16 skills assessments, but it constitutes one exam. So you don't have to pass every single 16 skills assessment station, as long as you meet the overall pass mark that the SRA determined for that particular sitting. So we have assessment dates the SRA have given. They've got 4 sittings per year. So essentially, as it says on this slide, they're every 3 months: January, April, July and October. So the one that you might be looking towards are probably January and April next year, unless you've got an exemption from SQE1, in which case you might be looking to October this year. In addition, again, you've got separate SQE2 fees on this slide. Again, same principle applies as to SQE1. Those are expected to rise every year, so those that needs to be borne in mind as well. So that is a really quick canter through SQE1 and SQE2. I'm sure you've got lots of questions, which we'll try and pick up either through the chat bar or via Matt later on.
Yes, well, before we do, Karen, we have had a couple of questions come in, so that I thought would be good to answer now, as relevant to what we've just discussed. Kate's popped a question in the chat saying, is the LPC still relevant? I've heard that the SQE will soon replace the LPC, and I'm already a law graduate, which has a bachelor degree in law in Russia.
Okay, so the LPC route is only available to someone who has already embarked on either an LLB, a GDL or an LPC as of last year, the year before, 2020. So if you haven't already enrolled on one of those courses, so a Russian degree is probably not going to be seen as a qualifying law degree under sort of English jurisdiction. So it might be that the LPC route is not open to you because you haven't already embarked on one of those three courses. What I would suggest you do is you go onto the SRA website and double check the status of your Russian law degree and see whether that's something that could be used to go down the LPC route. But it sounds from what you've said that it's likely that you'll have to go down the SQE route.
Thank you, Sarah. We've had another question in the chat, which I might be able to chip in on this one. Can the SQE with the College of Legal Practice be taken at the Oxford Brookes University? Now, I might jump in on this one, Sarah.
Okay. Yeah.
You can't do it at Oxford Brookes University. However, we do have a partnership with Oxford Brookes University. So if you are a student studying at Oxford Brookes University right now, doing your LLB with them, you are entitled to a 10% discount on any of our courses. So whilst we may not deliver in person at Oxford Brookes, you are entitled to some discount on our courses. So that's worth keeping in mind. And then one more question we've had, Sarah. Vayashayo has asked, I intend enrolling for my SQE1 and SQE2 this September. How long will it take to complete it on the full-time programme?
Okay, so if you're doing it consecutively on the full-time programme, you can do SQE1 preparation on a 13-week course, and I think Matt is going to just go through some of that detail a little bit later on. And then you could, if you want to, go straight onto SQE2, which is a 10-week course. But what you might need to do is factor in a bit of a hiatus, if you like, because of the fact that you won't have sat SQE1. There's a gap between getting your results, and therefore there's probably no point in enrolling too early on SQE2, because you want to make sure you've got SQE1 under your belt before you start embarking on the second stage of the course. So it is doable within 23 weeks. But as I say, I think you probably need to build in a little bit of a gap, bearing in mind when the SQE1 exam takes place, etc. And you can also wrap it up in an LLM. You could do it within an LLM 1-year course, together with some transactional modules and the capstone. And again, I think Matt's going to cover that a little bit later on.
Definitely. I see we've got quite a few questions coming through in the chat now. So what I'm going to do...
I can see that.
What we'll do is I'm going to carry on with a little bit of the presentation. And once it comes to Mary's point, where Mary's going to chat, I will pop some answers in that chat, so we make sure some questions still get answered as we go along. But Sarah, thank you for answering those and the info so far. So what I wanted to quickly do, give you an overview of our courses, before we introduce Mary, who's going to talk about her experience with the college and what she's done so far, and her journey, so you can start to piece together what your journey might look like. So we offer a range of courses guided towards the SQE. The first programme we have on the top left, which is in yellow, is our Graduate Foundation in Law. With the change in the SQE, it has moved away from the requirement of an LLB or a conversion degree, which was called a GDL. So what this programme now offers is a fast track route for somebody to get into law without having to complete a full degree program. So you still get the same content and the same knowledge, but in a little bit of a quicker time, and it's geared towards the SQE. So if you want to become a solicitor through the SQE, this is a great foundation program to start with. We offer over 20-week full-time or 40-week part-time, and it's £3,200. It's worth noting that anybody who undertakes our GFL is then entitled to 10% discount on any of our courses that support SQE preparation, so either our standalone modules or our LLM in legal practice. Now, the two bottom left in blue, we have our standalone preparation courses. So these are the ones that Sarah just kind of touched upon. So on SQE1, we offer 13 weeks full-time, which you'd be looking at around probably 35 hours of study per week. A 20-week part-time, which is around 20 hours, or a 40-week part-time, which again is probably about 8 to 12 hours. So dependent on the number of commitments you have outside, that gives you a good understanding of how you may want to study. But we're going to touch on that in a bit. The cost of the course is £1,800. Then we have an SQE2 preparation programme, which slightly different in the full-time, as it's 10 weeks as opposed to 13 weeks, and the cost of that is £2,300. Now, on the right-hand side is our LLM in legal practice. Now, this stands out slightly differently. The reason this stands out is you can incorporate your SQE preparation and attain a full master's program at the same time. Now, I'm not going to talk about that too much because Mary's going to do that brilliantly. She is currently a part-time LLM student with us. But what I've provided there is an example of a 1-year LLM program, so you can see what your program may look like. So you have 3 set modules, which is your SQE1, SQE2, and capstone research project. They are your set modules. You then have 3 elective modules that you study that you choose from our transactional skills list. And then you move on to SQE2 preparation and sit your exams. So you're able to incorporate that into a full program. And what's also fantastic about this, because it is a fully accredited program, you're entitled to student finance funding from the government. So whether you're based in Northern Ireland, Wales or England, you could be entitled to student finance funding, which is up to around about at the moment 11,800, which is increasing. And I will talk a little bit later about why that is so useful. Just because that covers fees, etc., for your exams. But what I wanted to do is take a very quick step back and give one of our students, Mary, the opportunity to talk about her experience studying with the college, sitting the SQE exams, her journey so far. She's now a trainee solicitor as well, so she's got a full spectrum of journey and experiences to tell you. So, Mary, over to you.
Thank you, Matt. So hello everybody. I will give you a little bit of a more brief overview of my background to start with, just so that you can sort of see where I'm coming from, what sort of pressures I have going on with work and children and things, so that you can sort of understand and maybe identify with some parts of it and how it might fit in for you. So I did my LLB in law with the Open University, and I graduated from that in 2020. I know a few people in the chat have mentioned that they also have a law degree. So going on from that, you can go on to the LLM with College of Legal Practice and the Masters there in the SQE. I also work full-time. At the time when I started my Masters with the College of Legal Practice, I worked full-time as a paralegal, and then I went on to maternity leave. So I had my third child last year whilst I was studying for the SQE1. So I think quite a bit of a mixture. So I was working full-time and studying combined, and then I went on to having a newborn baby and studying as well. So if any of you are juggling life as well as studying, then I can definitely understand the pressures that you're under. So I did the SQE1 last year. I sat it in July for the first time and I passed with studying this course. I only used this course. I didn't use any external sources. I just followed the plan that the College of Legal Practice had set for me, and thankfully managed to pass first time, even though I was working full time and all those other pressures as well. So I'll just talk a little bit about why I went with the College of Legal Practice to start with. So I chose the College of Legal Practice mainly for the flexibility. So I know a lot of people who are working or have other responsibilities, caring responsibilities. You can't always just drop everything and attend a university, attend things at certain times. And the College of Legal Practice were always really flexible with that. So it is still Monday to Friday, but the one-to-one support throughout the SQE1 course is just a short meeting, so you can quite often fit it in around work. If you work in a job where maybe you can't, then you can sometimes do after 5 p.m. ones. I know Sarah was my personal tutor for that module, and she was brilliant, and she set her meetings with me at 5 p.m. so I could log off from work and log straight on and have a chat with Sarah and catch up about how I was getting on. And that's another thing that drew me to the College of Legal Practice, was the one-to-one support. So I had heard about the College of Legal Practice being amazing for one-to-one support, and it really, really is. So I did have Sarah, and she was brilliant. I would sing her praises all day, every day, because she was so great at very quickly getting to know me, getting to know what's important to me, what pressures I'm under, what I might be struggling with, and she would really tailor her advice as to how I can work around those and what I can do to improve my chances of passing. And it was very, very individualised feedback. And I think we met around every 3-4 weeks and had that one-to-one chat. And it really kept me motivated to keep going, sort of have a target so I can make sure, okay, if I'm falling a bit behind, I've got a target, I'll get this done before I have my next meeting with Sarah, and then we'll discuss. And it was really, really helpful to have that constant contact with somebody and sort of going through the journey with me. And then the third reason that I chose the College of Legal Practice was the cost. I am someone who needs to work. I have a family to support, and I could not afford to pay for one of these SQE prep courses as well as the exam fees on top of that out of my own pocket. It's just not money that I have. I did have my LLB, so my undergraduate degree, and was eligible for a postgraduate loan, which I know Matt has mentioned and might be speaking a bit more about later. But as it was one of the main reasons that I chose the College of Legal Practice, I will discuss it here as well. So I think the postgraduate loan was brilliant because it covers my fees for the College of Legal Practice, but it also covers my fees for booking the SQE1 and SQE2 exams, which are two separate fees. So all under that same umbrella of this loan, which means I can afford to do it, whereas I wouldn't have otherwise been able to afford to do that. The college have also been really great at working their fee schedule around when I need to book my exams. So if I've needed to make a payment for the course, but I've also got the SQE1 fee book coming up, then they would amend their fees to make sure that I could still book the exams when I needed to. So that's all been really great. So if I've still got time, I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I will go on and talk about the SQE1 course that I did last year. So, and how it prepared me for the exams. So to start with, I will say, looking back on it, I don't feel negative about it because I think so much stress is on you and it's a lot of pressure when you are studying for the SQE1. But looking back on it, I actually enjoyed studying it. It was more of an enjoyable time for me. Obviously, there was still a lot of stress, but it wasn't too much. I still managed to get through it and enjoy the process as well. So I think Sarah might go through some of the functionality of the Canva platform that we use, but it's all very self-explanatory. We have a calendar and it sort of tells you what you need to do, when you need to do it, and it talks you through the different subject areas, and you do it sort of mixed up. So because you're tested across all the subject areas in one go, you sort of study them all in one go as well, which was really great. And when I did sit the SQE1, I felt well prepared. When the questions were coming up, they were of a similar format to the practice questions that I had already been doing with the college. So nothing came as like a shock. It wasn't completely different. I'd already done so many practice multiple choice questions that seemed very similar to what was coming up on the SQE exam, that it sort of just felt like I was doing another one of these mock exams with the college. And they do have so many practice questions as well. So regularly you'll have assessments where you sit down at a set time and it's a timed assessment. So you get used to sort of having to answer so many questions in a certain amount of time. So that's really helpful with teaching you the time management as well, and getting used to that and giving you feedback on how well you're doing as you progress through the course. And it's just, yeah, that it was all brilliant for me. Definitely felt well prepared. It is a lot of time that you have to dedicate though, so you do definitely have to put a lot of social things on the back burner and focus as much time as you can on the course. I did also do the personal injury module, which I'll not go into too much because I think this webinar is maybe more focused on the SQE, but I think there is a review that I've done on that on the website, so if you want to have a read of that, and I think another student has done one on dispute resolution, so if you're considering the masters, then there's some information about that on the website. I'm doing the SQE2 course at the moment, but I'm still in the process of that. So I don't have a lot of feedback really to give on that, other than it's quite a different setup. You still need to retain all of that legal knowledge, and then it really goes into the skills. So you have one submission every week that gets marked, and you get every single week you get a sit-down feedback meeting with a subject matter expert to discuss the work that you've submitted, how you can improve it, and just really again tailored feedback to what you're doing. I think that might pretty much cover what I wanted to say, unless there's any questions that have popped up that you want me to answer, Matt.
What I wanted to ask you actually, Mary, was you're in a very, I would say, situation where you're on a training contract, you're a full-time mum as well, and you're also studying. So there's a lot on your plate. how have you spoke really highly of Sarah, which was lovely to hear, but how have you found that the college has supported you through that, and what are the benefits of studying with the college to suit that lifestyle and to suit your personal and professional life?
Yeah, well, I think the general setup of the college seems to just fit in quite well with that, in that it's completely online, it's remote, I can study when I want to. It's rare that there's a set time that I need to block time out to actually sit and do something. All of the surgeries are recorded, so if I can't make something, then I can go back and I can watch it later, which sometimes I prefer to do anyway, and I can sit and make notes. And then there's discussion boards, so if I've watched a surgery and I think, oh, I really wanted to ask this question, I can go onto the discussion board and ask the question there and get it answered that way. So there's always ways of getting answers to your questions without needing to be present and be online at a certain time. There are obviously some times when you need to make yourself available, but it's not to the extent that it would be for sort of a face-to-face course. So it's definitely a lot more manageable with everything else.
Amazing, Mary, thank you. We will leave some of the questions there for now because I want to have some left at the end. So what we're going to do now, again, Mary, thank you. I'm going to take everybody through a little bit of let's say an understanding of what type of student you could potentially be on the SQE. So hopefully you can see my screen now, and we have the PowerPoint presentation back up. So if not, somebody please just give me a quick shout and say, Matt, you can't see it. But what I wanted to do was actually, firstly, Sarah's going to drop back in. Sorry. What we're going to do, Sarah is going to give us a nice quick demo of our online learning platform Canvas, so you can get a little bit of an understanding of the learning platform that is used and what Mary has just referred to. So I'm going to dip back out again, and I'm going to hand over to Sarah, who's going to give us a demo.
Okay, lovely, Matt, thank you. So a lot of what Mary has mentioned about the online platform, I'm hopefully going to be able to show you the demonstration. So if you just bear with me, I'm just going to share my screen. So Matt, perhaps you could just make sure that when my screen is shared, you can actually see what I want you to see.
We can indeed.
We can, yeah. Okay, so what I'm demonstrating to you is our SLK area. So this is your SLK is Solicitor's Legal Knowledge. So this is essentially the SQE1 preparation course. And essentially, whether you're on the full-time or part-time course, your area will look exactly the same. It's just obviously in relation to the part-time course, your learning will be extended over a longer period. So whenever you come on to enroll on one of our courses, you'll always land, first of all, into what we call our homepage. So essentially, this is what I'm showing you here. And this is essentially like our online course handbook, setting out all the essential information that you need to know about this Solicitor's Legal Knowledge module. So I'm not going to go into that, but it contains all the essential information that you need, and will give you lots of signposting to other areas and lots of links to other areas as well. So in terms of navigating your way around the area, we have a set of icons on the, not icons, set of links, if you like, on this ribbon here, and it will take you to all the different areas. So we use announcements very regularly to give you up-to-date information about the course. You can also get onto the individual study units, and I'll just show you those in a minute. By the modules. Then you've got lots of assignments, and these are essentially throughout the course you'll have the ability to undertake what we call formative assessments. So they're a bit like mock assessments in MCQs. So we start off small, so you start off with sort of some mocks that have which we call tasters, which are essentially 20 questions on each of those papers, paper 1 and paper 2, leading all the way up, building up gradually throughout the course until by the end of the course you'll have the opportunity to undertake formatives in a whole 90 question paper on the FLK1 and FLK2, together with an end of module assessment. And then we're launching from July onwards, we're launching what we call our 360 practice paper, which will be available sort of for you to really practice what it's like to do those 360 questions over those 4 different papers. So you've got plenty of opportunity to practice MCQ style questions. We've then got discussion boards. So as Mary said, you've got the ability to post questions. So each practice area, each of those 13 practice area has got a dedicated discussion board, and that's where you're able to post any queries you've got. So those are kind of the main areas that I'd like to show you. So Mary mentioned the calendar, and this is absolutely pivotal in relation to helping you work your way through each of those 16 practice areas. So I'm just going to show you a live calendar from one of our current full-time courses, which is taking place at the moment. So just bear with me while I click on that. So here you can see there's lots of entries on a weekly basis. And essentially what this does is just gives you a bit of structure to your week. Now we've put them on, so that this calendar contains all of the work that you need to complete in a week. And we've put them in specific days, but essentially you don't, apart from the live sessions, which I'll just talk you through in a minute, all of those study units are just what you need to complete by the end of the week. So by the Sunday, the 4th, for example, of June, you needed to have completed all of these subjects, which, as you can see, have all been crossed out now, because those are the ones that you need to complete by the end of that week. So as Mary said, that really helps you to structure your week and make sure you're working with the subjects in the correct way, because it then all feeds into the formative assessments which take place at regular intervals. Also during the week, you'll see that there are some what we call live group sessions. So we have regular town hall meetings, which are whole cohort support, together with the surgeries. So again, then we don't have lectures, but we have what we call subject matter surgeries, which again is your opportunity to go along, ask questions, and run by a subject matter expert who will perhaps unpick a particularly difficult MCQ or a particularly tricky topic within their practice area and help you to sort of understand it. So again, it's there, we're all online, but you're not working in isolation. There's plenty of support around. And then Mary very kindly name-checked me in relation to the personal tutor meetings. And again, on the full-time course, you'll be meeting, obviously, your personal tutor a little bit more regularly than on the part-time course, but all the courses, you will have regular check-in points with your personal tutor. So that's sort of the calendar. So and I just want to move on to look a little bit at the actual learning modules. So I'm just going to go back to the home page. So if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see that all of those 13 practice areas are then listed at the bottom of the page. But as Mary said, and as you all have seen, hopefully from the calendar, you don't study them in this order. All of the units are jumbled up so that it simulates the that random nature that you're going to come across in the SQE1 exams. So I'm just going to take you through what a typical subunit looks like. So all of our subunits are based on exactly the same approach. So once you've done one subunit, hopefully one or two subunits, you'll then get used to the approach, the methodology that we use to help you get ready for SQE1. So I'm going to take you to a subject that I hope some of you at least will know something about, because it's contract. So hopefully those of you who've done the LLB or perhaps done a GDL will know a little bit about contract law. So I thought that might be something that is a little bit more accessible to you than one of the more vocational subjects. So I've chosen contract terms 2. So each of our modules, each of those practice areas are broken down into subunits. So for example, contract has 5 subunits, and you'll know which subunit it is by the reference to the number here. So each subject area has got a number. So contract is subject 1, and we're looking at subject area subunit 2, which is all about contract terms. So that's one way in which you can navigate your way around. So then, as I said, each subunit follows exactly the same structure. So in terms of introduction, you'll be introduced to the subject and what you'll be expected to cover in that particular study unit. And then you'll be taken through a number of different resources. So one important thing to note is that we provide you with all the learning resources that you need. As Mary said, she didn't use anything outside of the material she was given by the college. One of those learning materials is a hefty 3-volume pack of manuals, which essentially contains all the legal knowledge in relation to those 13 practice areas. So as well as getting that in hard copy, you'll also get it in soft copy, which is all accessible via this Canvas area. As well as that, those sort of manuals, we also give you introductory videos. So we always suggest that you start off by watching those videos because they give you a nice little sort of overview and insight into what you're going to be covering in relation to this particular subunit. We then want you to delve a bit deeper. So once you've had that overview, we'll then take you to the manual. And again, really easy to cross-reference the subunit with where you need to look in your manual. Obviously, there's a link here, but perhaps if you were looking in the hard copy manual, your chapter reference will always be the same as the subunit you're looking at. So here you can see you're being directed to chapter 1, which is contract, and then subunit 2, so it's point 2. So again, it's a really easy cross-referencing system to help you. So that's all about embedding that legal knowledge. But obviously you then need to make sure you've retained and can recall that legal knowledge. So we've got a number of different activities that we use to help you with that embedding, retention and recall. So we've got what we call our drag and drop. So I'm not going to take you through that, but what you'll see here, that is all about understanding, making sure you understand the different terms that are used and the different legal principles. So drag and drop is obviously, as the name suggests, you drag the relevant word and drop it in where you think it makes sense. And then you can check your work once you've done that to see whether you're right, and you'll always get feedback. And the other important thing to note is that all of these activities in the subunits you can do as many times as you want. So we have got a strategy in terms of the multiple choice questions, but when it comes to revision and consolidation, you can keep going back to these activities, which is all important for that retention and recall. I am just going to show you a little bit of information about the next set of tools that we use, which are the flashcards. And it goes without saying that obviously part of what you need to have as part of your legal knowledge is a really good, clear knowledge of specific legal principles. So the SRA really want you to hone down into that laser focus of a specific legal principle, which will then be applied to a particular client scenario. So these flashcards are all about making sure you've got that legal knowledge embedded. So I'm just taking this random one, which is scenario 2, just to give you a little bit of a flavour. So just to, if you can't see it, so shoppers agreeing to purchase an oven from a shop, they're paying for it and arrange for delivery. When the oven arrives, it's black rather than green, which they wanted to make sure that it matched their kitchen. So what legal issues arise? So straight away, you need to be thinking about things like, if you remember from, if you've done contract law, you need to be thinking, is the person a consumer or a business? Because then different legal principles apply. Here, you'll be thinking they are a consumer because there's nothing to suggest that they're acting in a business capacity. You'll then be going down the route of the consumer implied terms. So you'll be thinking about a piece of legislation called the Consumer Rights Act. You might have heard of that, even if you haven't done law as your degree, if you've bought something from a shop which is faulty. And then you'll be looking at some of the implied terms that are always implied into a consumer contract, one of which is a sale by description. So here you've got a sale by description, i.e. that the oven is black. Then you'll need to be going down even deeper, so you can see you're narrowing down your legal knowledge, and you're down the legal principle. And then you're going down to, well, what remedies does that give you if you're if there's a misdescription, if you like, so you've got something that you didn't order. Well, here then you'll be looking at the whether it is a condition of the contract, because it's such an important term, or whether it's a more peripheral term, which would make it a warranty, which would then give you what your legal remedies would be. So here, obviously, it was really important that the green oven matched the kitchen, so therefore it would be a condition. And the remedies for breach of condition are that you can terminate the agreement and also sue for damages. So as you can see, you might not, some of this might be going over your head if you haven't done a law degree, but some of this, as you can see, we're going step by step through each of those principles. And then you can, once you've had a go at doing that yourself, you can then turn over the flashcard to see the different steps in which you'd need to go through, taking you logically through, as I've just done, those 4 steps to make sure you understand how you get to where the correct answer is. So that's all about understanding the principles, but then obviously you need to apply those principles to multiple choice questions. So each subunit will have at least 10 multiple choice questions for you to test, which are all very similar to the type of MCQs that you're likely to face in SQE1. So as you can see, if you multiply 20, each of those 13 practice areas together with all those multiple choice questions, you've got a whole range of multiple choice questions. So I'm not going to take you through this because I think we're going to be running short of time, but each multiple choice will have a STEM, which essentially is a bit of a scenario. So that's your scenario in terms of that you've got to apply your knowledge of the law to. And here, again, it's all about which contract terms apply to this particular contract. And there'll be, as it's in the same way that you'll be faced with in SQE1, there are 5 plausible answers that you could choose as the best single answer. But only one of those is actually the single best answer. And I've already pre-chosen it. The correct answer is that actually the legal position is that there are going to be implied terms pursuant to the Sale of Goods Act, because we're talking about a business-to-business contract. So again, just so you can see, we're going to check that answer. And again, it tells you you're right, but also not only that, it explains why you're right, but also cross-refers you back to the relevant bit of the chapter, so you can go back and double check. And that's the same whether you choose the right answer or the wrong answer. It will always give you feedback as to why the answer is correct or not, and then will always cross-refer you back to the relevant part of the manual where you can see what your answer is. So that was everything that I wanted to show you, to demo, but I'm hoping that you can see that it's quite easy to use, it's quite intuitive, and what's nice is that obviously once you've got used to the format, it's something that you'll be able to apply again and again to all of the subject practice areas. So unless there's any questions, I will hand you back. I'll stop sharing and I'll hand you back to Matt.
Thank you, Sarah. I hope that everybody's found that to be very useful, very beneficial understanding of what learning looks like here with us at the college. I don't think we've had any questions come through in relation to that thus far, so we'll save any to the end. So what we'll do now is I will jump back in and we will have a look at the different ways in which you can complete the SQE. So I just sort my screens out. So what type of student will best suit you? So what we've got in front of us here are 4 different types of student. We've got the academic, we've got the earn and learn, the undecided and the converter. Hopefully most of you will fit into one of those categories. What we're going to do is take you step by step through what learning looks like for those students. So, excuse me, this gives you an understanding, just a little key, the different colours of the different courses and type of assessment and qualifying work experience as you work towards the SQE. So the first student we have is the academic. So you might be a current undergraduate or postgraduate student now. You may want to head straight into that. You may want to study full-time. You're in the groove of studying and you want to keep that going. So you may look at doing a full-time preparation program. So ours is 13 weeks long. And you will then choose to do those exams as soon as you finish your preparation course. And once you've done that, you'll want to go straight to your SQE2 and then sit that straight away as well and get that done in as quick as time as possible. And as Sarah said, you can, with maybe a slight grace period in between, 23 weeks or so, at least of study time. Now you can see that we've suggested here, you can either do qualifying work experience alongside that, or you may wish to wait until you've done your exams and then get your qualifying work experience under your belt. So you may have little opportunities to do as you go along, or you may wish to wait to get right to the end and solely focus on your qualifying work experience. The earn and learn, somebody who needs to earn some money or wants to earn some money as they go. So a very similar looking model, but as opposed to them being full-time programs, they're part-time programs. So you may look at a 20 or 40-week course. If you're doing a 40-week course, you'd be looking at 8 to 10, 12 maybe hours of study a week, which is effectively a couple of evenings and a day on the weekend maybe. So you can hold down a full-time job. The 20-week, you can work full-time. It's very intense. Or you may look to actually work part-time and study part-time, give yourself a little bit of flexibility towards both. But you then do your qualifying work experience alongside. The undecided, who is the undecided student? So this might be somebody who I've always had an interest in law, being a solicitor, but I'm not 100% sure. So actually, maybe you want to flip it on its head, do some qualifying work experience first. Get a job as a paralegal, work in the legal environment, work out if that type of role is what you want to do, because you might not want to commit both time and finances to what can be quite an expensive qualification. So you may want to just test the waters first. Once you've done that, you can then start your SQE preparation and work towards it. Is it going to be full-time? Is it going to be part-time? Or are you going to sandwich it again with qualifying work experience at the end? So that gives you an understanding. So that hopefully gives you an understanding of what type of student you want to be. I won't go over this one too much as we've discussed quite a lot of the information already. This gives you a nice understanding of what type of student may want to apply to what type of course. So the 13-week intensive, 30-35 hours, you're looking at 3 to 4 hours contact time a week. And those are the different types of surgeries, town halls and one-to-one sessions you get each week. The 20-week and the 40-week, again, the idea of understanding of the number of hours of study, the contact time as well. We really do recommend the 40-week if you cannot get out of full-time work and you have additional commitments, as we heard from Mary. She's on a training contract, she's a full-time parent as opposed to that training contract while studying. So you may want to look for extra flexibility. Fees and funding. One thing that is always a question that we get, that is always a concern as well. What we've tried to do here on this page is firstly also break down what total outlay you might be looking at, but also how you may be able to fund that. So on the right left-hand side of the top left-hand side, we've got the breakdown of the fees. So your GFL, if you're looking at transferring into law, standalone preparation modules, but also the LLM and legal practice, plus the SQE assessments. It's worth noting and remembering the SQE assessments are separate fees to your education institution. So you will pay those directly to the SRA and sit your exams with CAPLAN on behalf of the SRA. And what we've done on the bottom left-hand side of the screen is just give you an understanding of what the total outlay might look like with all fees combined. So if you already hold an LLB and want to go straight into the SQE, standalone SQE prep plus the assessments, you're looking at over £8,500. The LLM in legal practice, you are looking at nearly £11,500. If you're coming from a non-law background, we've included the GFL price on top of those as well. So that gives you a nice understanding of what the future costs might be. Now, we've already touched upon the fact that postgraduate loan funding, those who do our LLM might be entitled to postgraduate loan funding from Student Finance, and that could be from Student Finance England, Wales and Northern Ireland. Each of them have slightly different regulations, but the total loan is increasing from the 1st of September to £12,167. Now, whilst the SRA might be increasing their exam fees, we are not increasing our LLM fees at the moment. So Mary fantastically touched upon the fact that that loan covers her fees with us, but also the fees for those exams. So she's able, under that loan, to be able to cover the cost of becoming the solicitor if she's able to pass it all first time. And she's passed her SQE1 already, which is fantastic. What that loan also does, it covers some of the hidden costs of the SQE. There are hidden costs in the sense that you have to travel to your exams, you may have to stay over, and you may have to purchase food whilst you are away. These are hidden costs towards the SQE exams that you might not be aware of, and that loan will help cover that funding. So that loan, if you do the LLM, is really beneficial to help you collate all of your fees under one umbrella. We also do scholarships. We've just closed our next round of scholarships for the SQE, and the Law Society Diversity Access Scheme also offer scholarships, and there's also grants from the Aspiring Solicitors Foundation. So there's lots of places out there that you can try find support financially to help you get through the programme. But you can also spread out the cost. We offer interest-free instalment options. So if you do the LLM, you would pay £150 non-refundable deposit up front, and then you can break down your payments into either 4 equal instalments if you do the full-time, or 8 equal instalments for the part-time. And then we also offer a 2-part instalment program for those doing standalone courses. So you do not have to worry about paying everything up front. That is one thing to think about. Why should you choose us? We have some of the highest levels, if not the highest level, of one-to-one access to expert practitioners, very flexible learning. Whilst you'll have your specific points throughout the week to be able to touch upon submissions, you can do your learning and your self-guided learning in your own time at your own pace. We have practice assessments that closely replicate the SQE, which you've heard from Sarah, how we go about delivering those. But our courses are also competitively priced, and we also offer very high value at a very competitive price. Being virtual, we have less fees maybe than our competitors have, but we still believe that fees do not need to be astronomically high to become a solicitor in England and Wales. We also have clear expectations of student engagement. We would like to see our students, the more you engage with it, the more you get out of it, the more likely you are to pass. We give you an SQE Ready review at the end of your programme. So we give you a guide if we think you're ready to sit the programme or not, based on your performance through your formative and summative assessments, to give you the best guide if you going for that exam is the right thing for you to do at that point. We have some courses upcoming. On the left-hand side are our SQE1 and our /LLM programs when they are starting. We also have Graduate Foundation Law program start every August or January, February. We also have SQE2 programs that start continuously out throughout the year, as we have a number of different programs. How to apply, you can go through that QR code on your screen there. We looked for students to have a minimum 2-2 classification degree or international equivalent. We do consider those with a 3rd class degree, but you would just be required to have a catch up with one of our academic staff. And if English isn't your first language, or you didn't study an English speaking degree, so you might have studied in a different country but it was not in English, you're required to have an English language qualification too. An example would be the IELTS. So that just gives you an understanding of what we have and how you can access those. But the last thing for us to touch upon, next Thursday we have a fantastic event looking at careers and career development and how to get into early career or entry-level roles within the legal industry. We have the business partner from Capsticks joining us, as well as Bal Atwell, who is a junior lawyer within West Midlands Police and is the co-chair of the Birmingham Solicitors Group, joining us for that. So that'll be a panel Q&A session. So if you're interested in hearing more about QWE, and if you're interested in hearing about opportunities and how to get into the profession, you can find those there. We have our contact details on the screen, and if you'd like to speak to myself or one of my colleagues directly, you can book in for a one-to-one Calendly appointment. I hope that has answered most of people's questions. Now, this was meant to finish at 12:30, but I can see that we've got a few messages coming through in the chat. Actually, that's Sarah replying, which is fantastic. We do not have anything in the Q&A function. So what we might do is leave that there, unless there are any questions, the more for them to come through. What we will do after this, you will receive an email with the presentation and the recording of this, so you can go back and listen to it for you to see at your own time and leisure. I guess the only other thing for me to do is thank Mary, thank Sarah, if they'd like to pop their faces back on the screen at all, for attending and giving us their experiences, their time, and their effort in the programme. It's really valuable for you to hear from current students, also as well as academics delivering the programme at the moment. But hopefully we've managed to answer most of your questions, but I do not want to keep many more evenings ticking on. So Mary and Sarah, thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Closing messages. So speaking too much, got dry throat. But we have had one quick question come in the Q&A function, so we will jump on that one. Will writing the SQE1 and 2 exams make it achievable for me to get a job as a solicitor as a foreigner? Would it be difficult or competitive as an international lawyer to get a job as a solicitor? Now I'm going to throw that one over Sarah's direction.
So can I just, so okay, so that's a big question, essentially a wide open question. There's no reason why you can't get a job as a solicitor as a foreign qualified lawyer if you've done SQE1 and SQE2. It just depends on obviously the requirements of the particular firm or organisation that you want to go with. We have got a number of students who are foreign qualified, who currently work in the UK, and they're wanting to up their qualification to being a solicitor, and then they're going to be retained by the firm or the organisation that they're going to work for. So I'm sorry, I can't give you a finite answer, but it all depends. But there's no reason why a foreign qualified lawyer can't get a job as solicitor once you've passed SQE1 and SQE2 and are admitted to the role.
Thank you, Sarah. Another question we've had from Beryl: can I book for just the SQE1 at Culp? Yes, you can. We have the standalone module, and we also offer it in different formats, so across that 13, 20 or 40 week program. And obviously you've already heard from Mary as well about the different experiences that she's had so far doing the exact same module but as part of the LLM.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm sorry, I was just going to jump in there just to make clear that obviously that's the preparation course. We do not get involved in actually registering for the actual SQE1 or SQE2 exams. You have to apply directly to the SRA for those.
Sarah, we shall leave everything there. Thank you so much for everybody that has attended. What we will do is, like I say, send these out in an email to you probably in the next few days, maybe early next week. But if you have any questions, even if you would like to ask Mary a question, please pop them in an email to us, and I'm sure we can pop them over to Mary or even Sarah and get some answers for you. But again, thank you everybody so much for attending. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.